Hello and welcome back to Coding with Unity. Today, we'll be taking a look at the new UI elements and the UI builder and how we can use those to create custom inspectors for your project. To go ahead and get started, we'll need to go to the Window and the Package Manager and install the UI builder package. So go to Advanced, Show Preview Packages and All Packages, and we can type in UI space builder, and it should show up. It says in Unity 2019.3 and .2, the UI builder can be found in Windows UI Builder. So I'm going to take that to think that you need 2019.2 or newer for UI builder to work. So let's go ahead and install the UI builder. And something I noticed while it was installing, apparently it's known as Ui Toolkit now and not UI elements. So hello and welcome back to Coding with Unity, where we'll be taking a look at the new UI Toolkit and how to use it in your project. Alright, after we get that installed, you can go ahead and close out of that window, and we can open up the UI Builder by going to Window, UI, UI Builder. Let's go ahead and dock this right here so it's easier to access. Resize it up so it looks better for your computer. And let's go ahead and take a quick rundown of what this layout is. Right here is the style sheet section where we'll be able to create and add new types of styles to our project. And then the hierarchy is the Ui XML, and this is where we'll create the actual layout of what our window looks like. Then down here we have the library, which just contains all the different things that you'll be able to add into your window. So to save time so I don't have to create a project to start making our custom editor window, I'm going to use a project I already created in a previous video that you can easily install through the package manager and my GitHub. So let's go to my GitHub and grab that project. The project is my Tween library project, and all you have to do to add it to your project is grab the URL, which is github.com/sniffle6/Tween library. Go back into Unity, click on Window, Package Manager, click the plus sign and add package from Get URL. Then you can paste in my URL that you just copied and click Add, and it'll go ahead and add that project into your project. If you want to follow along with this video, I recommend doing that. And if you want a more in-depth look at what this project is that I'm installing into this project so you can follow along a little easier, you can watch my previous video, How to Make a Tween Library, to figure that out. So once it's installed, you can clear out of what you have typed in the search bar, go to In Project, and it should say Tween Library. And once you click on Tween Library, let's go ahead and import my sample project, which is just a health bar effect project, which will give us an easy class to add an editor to, which is just the player health class. Once the project's imported, you can close out of this window. And let's open up the scene that holds the actual health bar effect from the samples project. You can go into the Scenes folder, open up the example scene, and import the TextMesh Pro Essentials. Once you're inside of the scene and you have the essentials installed, you'll have to fix the Remove 5 HP. Just click on it. And then you can hold down Alt when clicking on the sides to change all sides at the same time and just resize it back to the size of the button. There we go. Now we have a project ready to go to start creating a UI builder window with. And this is the window that we'll be editing. When we're done editing it, as you may have already seen in the beginning of the video, it should look like this. And we'll be able to set our max health. And as we set our max health, the health bar will react to how much health you should have based off the percentage of your current health and your max health. And you'll never be able to go below 0. Your max health can go as high as you want it. Your current health won't be able to go above your max health nor below 0. And as your max health goes down, it'll also lower your current health. Excellent. So let's go ahead and start creating that inside of our other project. Let's go into the UI Builder, and for me, I'm going to click on this button and click Tree View to change the layout of this area so it's easier for me to add objects to my window. So let's go ahead and start creating our custom editor for the player health class. The first thing we can do is add a visual element to our hierarchy, which a visual element is pretty much just a container that's going to contain other elements. And we're going to use this visual element to contain the header for our window. So once you have your visual element added, let's drag a label inside of the visual element. And you can see how the visual element resized to the size of our label. And if we go to our label and go to the text size and increase the text size, you'll see the visual element resizes to fit with the label. So let's put our size to 24 because I think that's about the size that I'll want. But I want my visual element to be slightly larger than what my label is. But I also want it to stay the same coherent size no matter what my window size is. So we can go to size, and where it says height, pixels, we can change it to percentage, and we can change the percentage to the size that we want it to be. I think for my project, I'll put it at 10%. Now, if we click on the label, we can go to the flex of the window and change the grow to 1, which will always make our label's element size the same size as the visual element that it's contained within. And the reason we're doing that is so that we can go to the alignment of our text and center it out. Excellent. I think that's starting to look pretty nice. Let's change the label to actually say what we want the label to say, and that's going to be player health. Now let's add a border to our player health, and the way we can do that is just by scrolling down to where it says border and adding a color for our border. I'm going to use the same color that Unity uses for their borders, and I just want a bottom border. I don't want a top, right, or left. So I'm going to add a 5-pixel border to the bottom. Now if we click off of here, you'll see that it's got a gray bar going across the bottom of our player health's visual element. And I also want to change my player health's background to be the same color as this example scene's background. So let's click on our visual element, go to background, click on the eyedropper for the color, and go over to here. Now our header has the same colors as their header. Excellent. So let's create another visual element to contain the current health, the max health, and the progress bar of the percentage of our health by dragging the visual element out of the container section into our hierarchy, which you'll see automatically aligns it below the last visual element that we added. And now inside of here, let's add 2 float fields, which is under numeric fields, float, and 1 progress bar, which is also under numeric fields. Cool, you can see where I already have it created to look pretty much the same as what we saw earlier. Now, we want to add this gray line that we have on our header's visual element to our body's visual element, but we don't want to have to redo it for every visual element that we create. So that's where style sheets come in. We haven't talked about those at all yet. Let's click on the header of our visual element, and you can see that we've edited the size, the background, and the border. And we want to extract these to a style sheet, but we don't want to have to manually create it all. That would be unnecessary and take longer than what's needed. So we can extend the style sheet section and create a name for what we want this to be. I'll call mine .container. You can name yours whatever you want, and then we're going to extract inline styles to a new class. Which isn't working, so maybe we need to save first. The UI builder that I've added to this project compared to the UI builder that I was using in the last project has been updated quite a bit, so there's no telling what's actually changed since I originally created my original project. So maybe deal with me on a few parts. Before, it just worked with the extract button, but now the extract button doesn't seem to be just working. So let's save and see if that's a change, because I also noticed that it doesn't say unsaved file on my style sheets anymore. So let's save our hierarchy and our style sheet by just being on this area and clicking, and make sure you're clicked on it and hit Control S. which now it's just saving the Ui XML. So yeah, I'm assuming I need to create a style sheet or something for it. We're going to have to figure out the changes that they did to that while I'm recording this video. Excellent. Okay, so let's save our Ui XML. We're going to do that inside of Assets, Samples, Tween Library, all the way down into the health bar effects, and we're going to say player health with an extension of .uxml. Maybe not the best name for it, but so you know, you could probably come up with a better name. So now that it's saved as player health, let's see if we can create a style sheet now. Let's click on our visual element. We have a name for it. Let's extract it. Still isn't letting me extract it. Oh, I'm getting warnings possibly. Nope. Let's re-add the dot to the front of it. Nope. Let's try creating one first. Test. We can do, strange. I have to have something I typed in before I can click on either of these. So let's try add new USS. Yeah, so add to new USS, add to existing USS. Okay, so I'm guessing we just have to create a new style sheet before that's going to work. Let's just create one that we're going to need at a later point. We'll need the progress bar. Let's go to add to new USS, go to the same place that we saved the last one, which was samples, and all the way down into health bar effects. And we'll also name this player health. Save. All right, now let's see if we can extract this. So we have what we were trying to do is we're trying to extract all the styles that we've added to this visual element to its own style without having to recreate the changes that we've done to this visual element. To do that, we'll type .container in our style class list and click extract inline styles to new class. Excellent. That's probably a bug that Unity is going to want to look at. We should be able to, when we click this button, it should probably automatically know that we're wanting to create a new USS or add it to an existing USS if one's not already loaded. That seems like a bug they probably just didn't think about since this is a brand new update to the UI builder. But now that we have that working, we can click on our second visual element and go to the style class list and type .container and click add style class to list. And you're probably wondering why the progress bar isn't inside of this visual element and it's underneath the bottom. And that's because if you go to the container, you'll remember that we put a 10% for the height on this visual element, but we only actually want that for the header. So we can right click on this and click unset. And we also only want the background color on the header. So let's go to the background and right click that and click unset as well. And you'll see that fixes that. But we need to go back to the visual element of our header and fix the color so it'll only be applied to our header. Perfect. And I should point out the change they did for the add a new is pretty useful because before it was pretty annoying trying to add an existing USS to an already existing UXML. You had to do that through code and you couldn't do it through the UI builder. But this was an update to fix that, so my ignorance of not knowing how to get around that before is not a reason to not like the update because it's a great update and Unity's doing really good with this new UI builder. I'm liking it a lot. So let's change float field and float field to say current health and max health by clicking on float field, going to label and typing current health, and then going to float field 2 and saying max health. We can also change the values to 0 and 0 here, or leave it at 42.2, your choice. Let's also change the progress bar from saying my progress to saying health bar. And we want to change the background color of our health bar, and we want to change the fill color of our health bar. The way we can do that is by clicking on this progress bar that we created earlier, and we can go up to where it says selector, and we can actually edit the name of this specific state. How we are going to edit it is by putting a space and typing another selector name. The name that we'll type is .unity-progress-bar__background. Make sure you put 2 underscores. What the space between the two names does is it's going to look for any element where the parent element is progress bar and any of the child elements is a background. You can also do a greater than sign, which will grab the progress bar as the parent element, and then it'll look for this as the exact child element of the first element that you type in. But we want an element that is at any point below the progress bar element, so we'll use a space. After making that change, you'll see that it puts this in the two different USS selectors. And you can see when we hover over .container, it selects everything because we have both of these visual elements with a .container on it, but when we hover over this, it selects nothing. The reason is because we don't have the progress bar added to our progress bar yet. So if we go to the style sheet for our progress bar and type .progress bar and add the style class to list, when we hover over it, hopefully it'll highlight, which it does. Now if we click on it and go to the background color, we can change it to a dark red color. One bug that I've noticed, if it happens to you, if anytime you click on the color selector, it just disappears on you. One way I found to fix it is if you use the color picker and just pick a random color and then go to it, it should allow you to edit it, just in case that happens to you. So now that we have the background color changed, let's change the progress fill color. And just to show that we don't have to use the .progress bar, .unity progress bar background, let's just add the unity progress bar progress. That way any progress bar this change will affect. Whereas having a .progress bar and .unity progress bar background will only affect progress bars that have a progress bar on the parent element. So let's add a new selector. We'll say .unity progress bar __ progress. Now when you add that and highlight over it, it's hard to tell if it's actually highlighting it or not because the value is at 0, and if we go to the progress bar, we don't have a way to actually set the value from inside the UI builder for some reason. So we're just going to have to hope it works until we set it to here. And you might be thinking we need to change the background color for the progress bar, but that's not actually what we need to change. What we need to change is the image tint, because if you click on the progress bar and you open up the progress bar's elements, child elements, and go to the one that is the actual progress bar _progress, which is this one, and scroll down to where the background is, I may be proven completely wrong. In the previous version, it was using a picture here and no image tint, but it looks like it doesn't have a picture anymore, so I'm curious how it's deriving the color. I guess we'll have to figure that out also in a minute. Let's just change the image tint color for now to a green and see, maybe that'll work. You can already see that it is working. Cool. Excellent. Just not sure if it's using the picture anymore. Just to show what I was talking about, if we go back to the other project and open up the progress bar, go down to the background, it says image progress font at 2x. So excellent, we have everything set up on the actual visual part of what we want our inspector to display, but now we need to actually figure out how to display it on our inspector. To do that, the first thing we need to do is save. And after we save, let's go into our project folder. Let's go into the player folder, which is where the player health is inside the mono behaviors folder. And let's create a new folder and call it editor. And inside of here, let's create a new script called health editor. Any editor script you create needs to be inside of an editor folder so that it'll actually work when we go to create a custom inspector. And it also keeps it from being added to your build when you build a project. So now that we have the health editor script opened up, let's add it to a namespace. This namespace is quite ridiculously long, so I'm just going to get rid of all of the first part and just make it say healthbareffects.scripts.player.editor_scripts. And instead of extending from mono behavior, this needs to extend from editor which is inside the Unity Editor namespace, so you'll say using Unity Editor. We can get rid of the start and the update functions. If you want to see how when you create a new file, those won't show up, you can watch my previous video on that. Now the first thing we need to do inside of the Health Editor class to get it to show up on our actual Player Health class is go above the public class Health Editor and say Custom Editor type of Player Health, or whatever the name of your script is. Now inside of the Health Editor class, let's create a method called onEnable, and inside of here, let's get the target that this editor class is pointing at, which is the Player Health class, and let's store it inside of a variable. So first, let's create the variable it'll be stored in by saying private player health underscore health. And then inside of onEnable, we can say health is equal to target, which is a variable that's provided for you when you inherit from editor. And you'll see it gives an error if you just try to say health is equal to target, and that's because we need to say as player health. Now our target will be casted to a player health. You could also alternatively just put 2 parentheses in front of target and type in player health. After storing our player health, we need to create the root element, which a root element is going to be the root visual element of our inspector. If we go back into Unity, you'll see that we used visual elements to create the actual window that we're working with. So the root visual element is just going to be another one of these visual element containers that's going to hold everything else inside of the window. So let's go back inside of the IDE and create a variable to hold the root element by saying private visual element underscore root element. So let's say root element is equal to new visual element. Now we've created the root element that everything else our inspector is going to be a child of. After doing that, let's load up the UXML and the USS classes that we saved from the UI builder. Just for reference, let's go look at what those classes look like and where they're at inside of our project. They're inside of health bar effects, and we have a playerhealth.uxml and a playerhealth.uss, or vice versa. So let's load up the UXML, and when we do load the UXML up, let's actually store that to use later as well. So we'll say private visual tree asset underscore visual tree, and that's what your UXML is when you load it, is a visual tree asset. So we'll say visual tree is equal to asset database dot load asset at path. The asset type that we want is a visual tree asset, and the path that it's at is, if we go back into our project, it's in Assets, Samples, Tween Library, 1.0.0, Health Bar Effects. So we need to type that. And then put another slash and say playerhealth.uxml, semicolon. Excellent. Now let's also load up our USS. We don't need to store the USS, so we don't need to create a private variable for it. Let's just say var USS is equal to pretty much the exact same thing, just with a different extension. Now after we've loaded our UXML and our USS classes, let's add the USS class to the style sheet of the root element that we created by saying underscore root element dot stylesheets add USS. And it's not working because we were loading our USS as a visual tree asset, but our USS is a style sheet. Excellent. We are actually done with the onEnable function, and we only need to write technically one more line of code to get the element to show, but we're going to do 3 lines of code. So let's say public, and that's ignoring the actual method. So let's write a public override visual element create Inspector GUI, which this is going to run when the Inspector GUI is first created by returning a create Inspector GUI, which is a visual element. But instead of returning the base one, we want to return the one that we created inside of our UI builder. So the way we're going to do that is by saying var root is equal to underscore root element, root.clear just to make sure it's empty, and then we need to actually clone our visual tree that we loaded from our asset database. The way we're going to do that is by saying underscore visual tree dot clone tree, and where we want to clone it to is to the root. And then just return the root. That's all we need to do to get this to actually display inside of our inspector. So let's go back into Unity, wait for it to compile, rearrange my windows, and then when we click on the player class, you'll see that it loaded everything into our inspector just like we wanted it to. But nothing is actually working and they aren't actually connected to the variables of the actual class. So let's do that next. So we need to find a way to access the current health, the max health, and the progress bar of our custom window. The way we're going to do that is by giving them names. Let's click on our first float field, scroll all the way to the top where the name is, and give it a name. I'll call it current health. And after you name it, you'll see that it says pound current health. Let's click on this second float field and call this one max health, which you can see says pound max health. And the progress bar we'll call health bar. Now that we've named these, we've created a way to more easily find them inside of our code, which we can go back into now. And the first thing we're going to do is create local variables to store these three elements, so we don't have to keep looking for them each time we want to use them. The way we're going to initially find them is by saying var current health is equal to root.query, but Unity's added us a little bit of syntax sugar, so we can just say q and pass in what we want to query for. What we want to query for is a float field. When you type this in, make sure it's of the UI elements. Some objects, they have the same name inside of normal.ui and .ui elements, so just be careful when adding that. And now let's pass in the name that we gave it inside of the UI builder, which was current health. And let's do the same thing for the other two variables. Excellent. Now let's go ahead and initially set the progress bar to the percentage of health our player is starting out with when the inspector is created by saying health bar dot value is equal to underscore health dot max health divided by underscore health dot current health. We can save that out and go back into Unity, and it should go ahead and fill the bar up inside of our window, which it gave an error instead. Let's see what the error is. No reference exception, object is not set to the instance of a reference. So it was unable to find the health bar, which we named health bar. And that's because we're looking for a float field with the name health bar, but what we want to look for is a progress bar with the name health bar. Let's save again, go back into Unity and see if that works. I think all these warnings are from the package that I installed. There must be some error that I did while creating the package. Just ignore those. Oh, it gave us an error again. Let's save and reload it. And we're no longer getting an error, but our health bar is empty. And that's because I said max health divided by current health. I meant to say current health divided by max health. Let's save again, go back into Unity, and see if our health bar fills up. Which it still didn't. Which now I remember the reason. And it's a good thing I remembered, because now we get to bring up a strange topic about the progress bar. Inside of our code, you can see that we have an access to the value, but we don't have access to the low or the high value, which is kind of strange. And then inside the UI builder, we have access to the high value and the low value, but no access to the value, which is kind of strange. And because of that, we're going to set the low value to 0 and the high value to 1. And if we divide the current health by the max health, that'll always give us a value between 0 and 1 that represents the percentage amount of how much health we have remaining. And after doing that, going back into Unity and letting everything save, you'll see that our health bar fills up correctly, as we expected it to 20 minutes ago. Which it might just be like 1 minute or 30 seconds for you, but it took me unnecessarily long to remember that's what the reason was. Excellent. Now that we have that done, let's move on to binding the actual properties of our current health and our max health to the float fields that we created on our custom inspector. The way we'll do that is by saying current health.bind property, and the way that we're going to actually find the current health from the player health class is by saying serialized object, which is provided to us by inheriting from the editor class, and we'll say serialized object.find property. The property that we want is the current health, which if you go into the player health class, you can see that it's called current health. So let's do that, which will bind the current health value from our player health class to the current health float field of our custom inspector. Now let's do the same thing for the max health. Save and go back into Unity, and after it compiles, you'll see the current health says 100 and the max health says 0. That's because we forgot to change current health to say max health. So let's bind max health to the max health, and after it compiles, they both say 100. Excellent. Now, when we change values, we want to update the health bar to represent how much health we have left. How we're going to do that is by registering a value change callback to our current health by saying current health.register value change callback. And inside of here, we'll say EVT for event. Then let's make an open and a close bracket. And then we can just copy and paste this into here, which isn't the best code practice. Anytime you copy and paste something is a great code smell, and you should probably go back and refactor it. But this video's not on creating clean code exactly. This video's on showing you how to get the UI builder and UI elements, or Ui Toolkit, up and running quickly and efficiently. After you learn how to get it working and everything up and running, then you can go back through and refactor the code, which I think leaving this video in a point where it could be refactored a little is a good mind exercise for you to be able to do after watching this video to really make sure you understand what you're doing. So we've added a register value change callback so that every time current health changes, the health bar's value will update with the health's current health and the health's max health. So you know, the EVT will actually pass the value of the current health that got changed. You could say EVT.newValue and .previousValue to get those two values. But since we're binded to the health's current health and the health's max health, we can just access the values from there instead. Once we go back into Unity and it compiles, you'll see the health bar updates to represent how much health we have left. Cool. So that's pretty much everything that I really needed to show you for this video, and everything else from here on out is just some extra sugar to make this work a little better. And what that extra sugar is going to be, the first thing you might notice is our current health can go below 0, but we don't want it to go below 0. The way we're going to fix that is by going back into our code, and above where we set the health bar's value, let's say _health.setHealth, and say EVT.newValue. So we'll be setting our health to the new value that we're passing in, which when setHealth runs, it makes sure to clamp the value between 0 and max health. After that saves, we can go back into Unity, and you'll see that it's still going below 0, but it's not really below 0, we just don't have any code that's keeping it from displaying below 0. Which seems weird because we're binded to it, right? But you'll see that if we just say, right after this, we'll just say currentHealth.value is equal to _health.currentHealth, which we just set our current health to the EVT.newValue, it's going to work. See, now we can no longer go below 0. And if we go up, we can't go above the maximum health. Excellent, we're clamped between 0 and max health just like the code assumes we should be. Now when we lower the max health, we need to make the current health go down, and we need to clamp max health from going below 0. So let's go back into our code, and we're going to do pretty much the same thing for max health as we did for current health. So let's say max health dot register value change callback EVT open and close bracket. We'll say underscore health dot set max health EVT dot new value max health dot value is equal to underscore health dot max health, and then current health dot value is equal to underscore health dot current health. Then we can just copy and paste the health bar code to update the health bar after updating the max health as well. And don't forget to add your semicolon. Let's save this and go back into Unity and see if this worked. Now, let's lower our max health and see if it affects our current health. Which you can see it does. Let's see if we can get our max health below 0. We can't. Let's put our max health up. We can't go above it or below it. Cool. Everything is working just as we expected it to. And some other cool things about the UI Builder, you can click Fit Canvas to automatically fit your canvas. You can click File, New, Open, Save, and Save As. You can change your default theme between default, dark, light, and runtime, which would actually show the camera of your runtime game if you're building a runtime menu and not an editor menu. Then if you click Preview, it changes from highlighting the hierarchy to actually being able to change the values. And another thing to keep in mind is you really only need to create one USS for all of your menus if you want your menus to keep a consistent style. You can just pass the same USS style sheet to all of your different menus. Well, that's it for this video. If you have any feedback or comments, leave it in the comment section below. I make these videos to help you out, so if this video wasn't able to teach you efficiently, or you have something you think that I could do better to get my information across better, please let me know. I make these videos for you and not for me. But if you did like this video, or you like where this channel is going, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. But until next time, remember, anything that you haven't tried seems infinitely hard until you try it.